The golden cage. The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the marble floors of the Sterling mansion as guests in designer gowns and tailored suits mingled beneath oil paintings worth more than most people's homes. Tonight marked Vivian, Sterling's 18th birthday, and her father Marcus had spared no expense in creating what he called a celebration worthy of a princess. Vivian stood at the grand staircase's landing, watching the scene below with hollow eyes. Her midnight blue gown, custom-made in Paris, felt like a beautiful prison. Every smile she offered the guests felt forced, every laugh mechanical. These people weren't here for her. They were here for her father's business connections, his wealth, his influence. "Darling, you look absolutely radiant," her stepmother Claudia whispered, appearing beside her with champagne flute in hand. Claudia's smile was as polished as her diamond tennis bracelet. "The Vanderbilt boy keeps asking about you. His family owns half of Manhattan's real estate, you know." Vivian nodded absently, her gaze drifting to the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. Somewhere out there, beyond the manicured gardens and iron gates, real people lived real lives. They struggled. They laughed genuinely. They cried. Honest tears. Here, everything felt like performance art. "Vivian!" Marcus Sterling's booming voice carried across the ballroom. At 52, he commanded attention wherever he went. 6 feet tall, silver-haired, with eyes that could close million-dollar deals or crush competitors with equal ease. "Come down here, sweetheart. It's time for your surprise." As Vivian descended the staircase, the crowd parted like the Red Sea. A velvet-covered table sat in the center of the room, and upon it rested a jewelry box that gleamed under the lights. Marcus beamed with pride as he opened it, revealing a necklace that drew gasps from every woman present. The Stellar Heart, a 50-carat pink diamond surrounded by smaller stones, set in platinum that caught the light like captured starlight. Conservative estimates placed its value at $15 million. "For my precious daughter," Marcus announced, his voice carrying the satisfaction of a man who believed he'd just solved every problem in the world. "Nothing is too good for you. Vivian, this necklace belonged to European royalty. Now it belongs to American royalty. You." The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. Society reporters scribbled notes. Vivian stared at the necklace, feeling its weight before it even touched her skin. Beautiful, yes. Valuable, certainly. But as she looked at her father's expectant face, all she could think was how this single piece of jewelry could feed 1,000 families, educate hundreds of children, or provide shelter for countless homeless individuals. She reached for the necklace, her fingers trembling slightly. The pink diamond felt cold against her palm, like holding a beautiful glacier. Around her, the crowd waited for her reaction. Joy, gratitude, tears of happiness. Instead, Vivian closed the jewelry box with a soft click. "Thank you, Dad," she said quietly, her voice barely audible above the expectant silence. "It's beautiful, but I think I need some air." The crowd murmured in confusion as Vivian walked toward the garden doors, leaving behind the most expensive gift she'd ever received, and the bewildered stare of her father. Outside, under the starlit sky, she finally felt like she could breathe again. What she didn't know was that tomorrow would change everything, because tomorrow she would meet someone who would show her what true wealth really meant. The unexpected encounter. 3 weeks had passed since the birthday party disaster, as Claudia now called it. Vivian had been grounded, her credit cards confiscated, and her social calendar cleared. But Marcus Sterling had underestimated his daughter's resourcefulness. While he thought she was sulking in her room, Vivian had been sneaking out to volunteer at St. Augustine's Community Center downtown. Sister Catherine, a nun in her 60s with kind eyes and calloused hands, had welcomed Vivian without questions. "We can always use extra help," she'd said simply, handing Vivian an apron. "The children here don't care about your last name. They just need someone who cares about them." On this particular Tuesday morning, Vivian was helping serve breakfast when she heard raised voices from the recreation room. Through the doorway, she saw three older teenagers cornering a small boy named Tommy, no more than 8 years old, tears streaming down his face. "Give us your lunch money, crybaby," one of the bullies sneered. "You know the rules." "Please," Tommy whimpered. "It's all I have," Sister Catherine said. "Sister Catherine ain't here right now," another bully interrupted. That's when Vivian saw him. Jamal Rivers appeared in the doorway like a guardian angel, though he looked nothing like the cherubs in Vivian's art books. At 19, he was tall and lean, with gentle brown eyes that held an old soul's wisdom. His clothes were clean but clearly second-hand, jeans with patches, a faded basketball jersey, and sneakers held together with duct tape. "Back off," Jamal said quietly, but his voice carried absolute authority. The bullies turned, and their confidence evaporated. "Come on, Jamal, we're just having fun." "Fun?" Jamal stepped forward, and despite being outnumbered, the bullies began backing away. "Terrorizing a kid half your size is fun? How about you try picking on someone who can fight back?" "We don't want trouble with you, man," the leader stammered. "Then leave Tommy alone. And if I hear about this happening again, you'll have more. Then trouble. You'll have me to answer to." The bullies scattered like leaves in the wind. Jamal knelt beside Tommy, producing a clean tissue from his pocket. "You okay, little man?" Tommy nodded, wiping his eyes. "Thanks, Jamal. I was so scared. Being scared is normal. Being kind isn't always easy, but it's always right." Jamal ruffled the boy's hair. "Now, how about we get you some extra pancakes? I hear Sister Catherine made them special today." As they walked toward the kitchen, Vivian found herself following, drawn by something she couldn't name. She watched Jamal interact with the other children, lifting a toddler who wanted to see the fish tank, helping an elderly man with his medication, organizing a pickup basketball game for the teenagers. "You've been watching him for an hour," Sister Catherine observed, appearing beside Vivian with a knowing smile. "Jamal has that effect on people." "Who is he?" Vivian asked. "One of our success stories, though he'd never call himself that." "Been coming here since he was Tommy's age. His mother died when he was 12, no father in the picture. Instead of falling into the usual traps, he chose to be different. Works 3 jobs to pay for community college, sends money to his grandmother in Puerto Rico, and still finds time to volunteer here every week." Vivian watched Jamal teaching a group of children how to shoot free throws, his patience infinite as he adjusted their form over and over again. 3 jobs? Delivery driver for a pizza place, night security at an office building, and weekends at a grocery store. Dreams of becoming a teacher someday. Sister Catherine's eyes sparkled. "He reminds me that wealth isn't about what you have, it's about what you give." That afternoon, Vivian found herself assigned to help Jamal organize the supply closet. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, sorting donated clothes and canned goods. Finally, Jamal spoke. "You're new here," he observed. "I'm Jamal." "Vivian," she replied, then added impulsively, "What you did for Tommy this morning was incredible." Jamal shrugged. "Tommy reminds me of myself at that age. Sometimes all it takes is one person standing up for you to change everything." "Is that what happened to you, Sister Catherine?" Jamal smiled. "Found me sleeping in the park when I was 13. Brought me here, gave me hope. Now I try to pass it forward." As they worked, Vivian found herself sharing things she'd never told anyone. Her loneliness, despite being surrounded by people, her guilt over her privileged life, her desire to make a real difference in the world. Jamal listened without judgment, and when she finished, he said something that would stay with her forever. "Money can build walls or bridges, Vivian. The choice is always yours." Worlds Collide Marcus Sterling discovered his daughter's secret life through his private investigator, a man whose job was to know everything about everyone who mattered. The photograph spread across Marcus's mahogany desk told the story in vivid detail. Vivian serving food to homeless people, reading to children, and, most disturbing of all to Marcus, laughing genuinely beside a young man whose background check read like a cautionary tale about urban poverty. His name is Jamal Rivers, the investigator reported. 19, no criminal record, but from the Riverside Projects. Mother died of cancer when he was 12. Never knew his father. Works multiple minimum wage jobs. Marcus's jaw tightened as he studied the photos. In one, Jamal was helping Vivian carry boxes of donated clothes. In another, they were sitting on the community center steps, deep in conversation. What terrified Marcus most wasn't that they were together. It was how happy Vivian looked. "I want him gone," Marcus said coldly. 2 days later, Jamal found himself facing Detective Rivera in a sterile interrogation room. The detective, a weathered woman in her 40s, slid a file across the table. "Someone reported seeing you near the Westfield Mall last Tuesday night. There was a break-in at the jewelry store. Care to explain your whereabouts?" "I was working," Jamal replied calmly, though his heart raced. "Pizza delivery until midnight, then security shift at the Grandview office complex. I have receipts, time cards, witnesses." Detective Rivera studied his face. In 20 years of police work, she'd learned to read people, and everything about... This kid screamed innocent. His hands weren't shaking, his story was consistent, and his eyes held steady contact. Someone was pulling strings here, and she had a pretty good idea who. Meanwhile, Vivian sat in the Sterling Mansion's library, facing her father across his imposing desk. The pink diamond necklace lay between them like a challenge. "I know where. You've been spending your time," Marcus began, his voice dangerously quiet, "slumming with criminals and degenerates." "They're not criminals," Vivian shot back. "They're people who need help. Good people, unlike..." "Unlike what? Your family? The people who gave you everything?" Marcus's control cracked slightly. "That boy is using you, Vivian. Can't you see that? Jamal doesn't even know who I am. I never told him about our money." Marcus laughed bitterly. "He knows exactly who you are. Why do you think he's paying you so much attention? Because he's kind, because he cares about others, because he's everything you're not." The words hung in the air like shattered glass. Marcus's face went white, then red. "That boy will destroy your future. I won't allow it. You can't control everyone, Dad. You can't buy everyone. Watch me." The next morning, Jamal arrived at the community center to find Sister Catherine in tears. Mrs. Chen, the elderly woman he'd been helping with her groceries for 2 years, stood beside her, wringing her hands. "They said the center owes back taxes," Sister Catherine explained. $40,000, due immediately, or we lose the building. But we've always been current on our payments. I don't understand." Jamal's blood ran cold. He understood perfectly. This had Marcus Sterling written all over it. Brandon Ashworth appeared in the community center's doorway like an unwelcome shadow. At 22, he was everything Marcus wanted in a son-in-law. Wealthy, connected, and completely without conscience. His family's law firm handled the Sterling account, among others. "Miss Sterling," he said, ignoring everyone else in the room. "Your father sent me to collect you." Vivian looked up from where she'd been comforting a crying child. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm afraid you don't have a choice. There's been some unpleasantness regarding your friend." Brandon's smile was sharp as a blade. "Seems he's been accused of theft. If you come home now and agree to your father's terms, those charges might disappear." Jamal stepped forward. "She doesn't have to go with you." Brandon's laugh was ugly. "And what exactly are you going to do to stop her? Call your lawyer? Oh, that's right. You can't afford one." The cruelty of it hit Vivian like a physical blow. She looked at Jamal, seeing the pain he was trying to hide, the careful dignity with which he bore Brandon's insults. This was her father's, doing all of it. "I'll go," she said quietly. "But this isn't over." As Brandon escorted her to his luxury car, Vivian turned back one last time. Jamal stood in the community center doorway, surrounded by the children and elderly people who depended on this place. His expression wasn't angry or defeated. It was determined. "Don't worry about us," he called out. "We'll figure something out. We always do." But as the car pulled away, Vivian saw Mrs. Chen place a comforting hand on Jamal's shoulder, and she knew that some battles couldn't be won with good intentions alone. The Breaking Point Judge Harrison had seen many cases in his 30 years on the bench, but the community center funding hearing felt different. The courtroom was packed with an unusual mix of people: wealthy philanthropists in the front rows, community members clutching worn folders of documentation, and children who'd clearly been brought to show support for their after-school sanctuary. Marcus Sterling's legal team occupied an entire table, their briefcases gleaming like armor. Across the aisle, Jamal sat with Sister Catherine and a court-appointed attorney who looked overwhelmed by the Sterling legal machine. "Your Honor," the Sterling lawyer began, "the evidence is clear. St. Augustine's Community Center has failed to pay property taxes for 3 years running. The law is unambiguous." "Objection," interrupted a voice from the back of the courtroom. Every head turned as Principal Davis from Roosevelt High School stepped forward. "If I may, Your Honor, I have documentation that proves otherwise." Principal Davis, a stern woman in her 50s who devoted her life to urban education, approached the bench with a thick folder. "I've been working with Sister Catherine for years on after-school programs. These tax documents show that all payments were made on time, with certified mail receipts." The Sterling lawyer's confident expression faltered slightly. "Your Honor, we have records from the city tax office." "Records that were mysteriously altered last week," Principal Davis continued. "I have a friend in the tax office who was troubled by some unusual activity in the computer system." Judge Harrison studied the documents with growing interest. In his experience, when powerful people tried to crush community organizations, there was usually more to the story. Meanwhile, 3 blocks away, Rosa Martinez was facing her own crisis. The single mother of 2 had been cleaning offices at night while studying for her nursing degree during the day. Jamal had been babysitting her children for free whenever she had late classes or double shifts, making her education possible. Now she stood outside the Sterling Industries building, having made a decision that terrified her. She walked past the intimidating security guards and marble lobby, riding the elevator to the top floor where Marcus Sterling's empire was headquartered. "I need to see Mr. Sterling," she told the impeccably dressed receptionist. "Do you have an appointment?" "Tell him it's about Jamal Rivers." 5 minutes later, Rosa found herself in Marcus's office, facing the man whose power could make or break lives with a phone call. He studied her with cold eyes, taking in her work uniform and calloused hands. "You're wasting your time," Marcus said without preamble. "Whatever you think that boy means to you, I can offer you more." Rosa straightened her shoulders. "You don't understand. Jamal doesn't just help people, he transforms them. Because of him, I'm 6 months away from becoming a registered nurse. Because of him, my daughter believes she can be anything she wants to be. Because of him, dozens of kids have hope. Hope doesn't pay bills. No, but it gives you a reason to work towards something better." Rosa pulled out a worn envelope. "These are letters from parents whose children Jamal mentors, teachers whose students he inspires, elderly neighbors he checks on. You want to destroy one person, but you're destroying an entire community." Marcus glanced at the letters but didn't touch them. "He's corrupting my daughter, making her think she can save the world. Maybe the world needs saving. Maybe your daughter sees something you don't." That evening, Vivian sat in her bedroom staring out at the city lights. She'd been under house arrest for a week, her phone confiscated, her movements monitored. But Claudia had made a mistake, leaving her laptop unsecured for 10 minutes. In those 10 minutes, Vivian had transferred $500,000 from her trust fund to St. Augustine's Community Center. It wouldn't solve everything, but it would keep them open long enough to fight the legal battle. She'd also sent an email to every society reporter and blogger she knew, telling the real story of what was happening. By morning, the Sterling family's dirty laundry would be front-page news. Her bedroom door opened without a knock. Marcus stood in the doorway, his face a mask of controlled fury. In his hand was a printout of her bank transaction. "You have no idea what you've done," he said quietly. "I know exactly what I've done. I chose love over money. I chose truth over power. I chose to be someone I can respect. You chose to humiliate your family, to throw away everything I've built." Vivian stood up, meeting her father's gaze steadily. "You built your empire by stepping on people like Jamal, by silencing voices like Sister Catherine's, by pretending people like Tommy don't matter. I'm not going to be part of that anymore." "Then you're not my daughter." The words hung between them like a chasm. Vivian felt tears threaten, but she kept her voice steady. "If being your daughter means becoming like you, then you're right, I'm not." Marcus turned to leave, then paused. "That boy will disappoint you eventually. They always do." "Maybe," Vivian whispered to his retreating figure. "But at least he'll do it honestly." Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm, unaware that in one mansion overlooking its lights, a father and daughter had just drawn battle lines that might never be crossed again. Love transforms everything. The story broke at dawn, spreading across social media like wildfire. Sterling scandal. CEO tries to destroy community center over daughter's romance. By noon, protesters had gathered outside Sterling Industries, many of them children from the community center holding hand-drawn signs reading, "Save our safe place," and "Heroes don't wear suits." Marcus Sterling stood at his office window, watching the crowd below with growing unease. His phone hadn't stopped ringing, board members demanding explanations, business partners distancing themselves, reporters seeking statements. In trying to protect his daughter, he had exposed his own methods to scrutiny. Father Miguel from St. Augustine's arrived unannounced, somehow bypassing Marcus's security and receptionist. The elderly priest had baptized half the community and buried the other half, and his presence commanded respect from people of all faiths. "I'm not here to condemn you," Father Miguel said gently, settling into the chair across from Marcus's, desk uninvited. "I'm here because a young man asked me to deliver a message. I don't want to hear anything from that boy. His message isn't for you. It's for your daughter. But I think you need to hear it too." Father Miguel pulled out a handwritten letter. "Jamal wanted Vivian to know that he's dropping out of college." Marcus felt a surge of satisfaction, quickly replaced by confusion when the priest continued. "He's using the scholarship money he saved to help pay the community center's legal fees. He's also taking a fourth job to help support Mrs. Chen, whose disability benefits were mysteriously cut last week." The satisfaction died completely. Marcus had forgotten about the collateral damage of his war against Jamal. "There's something else," Father Miguel continued. "Dr. Patricia Wells is here. She's a psychologist who specializes in family counseling. I think you should speak with her." Dr. Wells was nothing like Marcus expected. Instead of the stereotypical therapist with a notepad and judgmental expression, she was a practical woman, in her 50s, who spoke like a business consultant. "Your daughter's rebellion isn't about the boy," she said directly. "It's about authenticity. She's 18 years old, looking for meaning in a life that's been curated for her since birth. Jamal represents something genuine in a world she perceives as artificial. So I should just let her throw her life away? Define throwing her life away. From what I've observed, she's never been happier or more purposeful. She's found something worth fighting for." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "And what about what I've fought for? This company, this legacy? What good is a legacy if your daughter wants no part of it?" That evening, against every instinct and his lawyer's advice, Marcus Sterling drove to the Riverside Projects. The neighborhood was everything he'd feared. Poorly lit streets, graffiti-covered walls, the distant sound of sirens. But as he walked toward the building where Jamal lived, he noticed other things too. A community garden where neighbors worked together, children playing safely in a small park, elderly people sitting on porches watching over their street. Jamal answered his apartment door with obvious surprise. The apartment was tiny but immaculately clean, with textbooks stacked on a card table and a small shrine to his deceased mother in the corner. "Mr. Sterling," Jamal said carefully, "I wasn't expecting you." "Neither was I." Marcus looked around, the modest space, noting the absence of anything remotely luxurious. "I came to talk about my daughter." "With respect, sir, maybe you should talk to your daughter about your daughter." The response surprised Marcus with its quiet dignity. "She chose you over everything I could give her." "She didn't choose me, Mr. Sterling. She chose herself. She chose to be someone who matters to people who need her." Jamal gestured to a photo on his refrigerator showing Vivian reading to children at the center. "Look at her face in that picture. When's the last time you saw her look that happy?" Marcus stared at the photograph. In it, Vivian was laughing at something one of the children had said, her eyes bright with genuine joy. He couldn't remember the last time she'd looked at him that way. "I thought I was protecting her," Marcus said quietly. "From what? From caring. About people? From making a difference? From being loved for who she is instead of what she has?" The truth of it hit Marcus like a physical blow. He sank into the small kitchen chair Jamal offered him, suddenly feeling every one of his 52 years. "I don't know how to be different," he admitted. "Neither did I once, but someone gave me a chance to try." The next morning, Marcus Sterling did something unprecedented. He called a press conference, not in his corporate boardroom, but in the community center's gymnasium. The room was packed with reporters, community members, and his own bewildered board of directors. "I owe this community an apology," he began, his voice carrying clearly through the room. "In trying to control my daughter's life, I forgot the most important lesson my own father taught me, that a man's worth isn't measured by what he accumulates, but by what he contributes." Vivian stood in the back of the room, tears streaming down her face as she watched her father continue. "Effective immediately, Sterling Industries will establish a $50 million foundation dedicated to supporting community centers, after-school programs, and educational scholarships for underprivileged youth. The first grant will ensure that St. Augustine's Community Center never faces closure again." The room erupted in cheers, but Marcus wasn't finished. "I also want to announce that Jamal Rivers has been awarded the Sterling Foundation's first full scholarship, covering not just his education, but living expenses while he pursues his dream of becoming a teacher." Jamal stood stunned as the crowd surrounded him with congratulations. Across the room, his eyes met Vivian's, and in that moment they both understood that sometimes the greatest victories come not from defeating your enemies, but from transforming them. Later that evening, Marcus found Vivian in her childhood bedroom, packing clothes into a suitcase. "Where are you going?" he asked. "I got accepted to the social work program at the State University. I start in the fall." Marcus nodded slowly. "It's a good school. Your mother would be proud." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Vivian spoke again. "Dad, thank you for listening, for changing. Thank you for teaching me what courage looks like." As Vivian continued packing, she came across the pink diamond necklace still in its velvet box. She held it up to the light, watching it sparkle. "It really is beautiful," she admitted. Marcus smiled. "So is what you chose instead." 6 months later, at the community center's annual fundraising gala, Marcus Sterling watched his daughter dance with Jamal Rivers. Around them swirled a crowd that would have been impossible to imagine a year ago. Society philanthropists sharing tables with community volunteers, corporate executives learning from inner-city teachers, children from the projects playing with suburban donors' kids. Claudia appeared beside him, elegant as always, but somehow softer. "Are you happy?" she asked. Marcus considered the question seriously. He'd lost some business partners who disapproved of his new direction. His net worth had decreased by millions. The society pages now portrayed him as either a saint or a fool, depending on their editorial stance. But watching Vivian's radiant smile, seeing the genuine respect in Jamal's eyes, witnessing the transformation of an entire community, Marcus Sterling realized something profound. For the first time in his adult life, his wealth was actually making him rich. "Yes," he said finally. "I think I am." In the end, it wasn't diamonds that proved priceless. It was the courage to choose love over fear, connection over control, and the wisdom to understand that true wealth isn't about what you can buy, but about who you choose to become. The heart, it turned out, was indeed worth more than gold.